Hello everyone, welcome to part 2. So, looks a little bit different. What I did was, back in my chav days, as we should call it, I had a 12-inch JBL sub in my old Rover, my old red Rover, which I think there's a video from God only knows how many years ago, right down that video list. Very, very, very old video. Anyway, the sub box. What I did was I have chopped it up, effectively. This was the back of the box, which is on a slant, so it would fit nice and flush to back seats. And I have installed the brand new Sony head unit. The Edge speakers, they're not brilliant speakers, they're alright. They're a bit cheap, but they can be replaced at a later date. It's only because I had them around and I didn't want to chuck a lot of money at this, in all honesty, because I didn't know how well it was going to come out. It's actually come out really well, I think. It's not finished. There is some bits and pieces that still need doing, so please forgive its rather rough look at the moment. So, what have we got? A couple of coaxial speakers at the bottom, and I've done that so we don't have separate tweeters and more holes to drill and it look like there's far too much going on. So, quite happy with just the coaxial speakers. Bear in mind this is going to be used in a house, possibly a garage. It doesn't need to be ridiculously loud, and it already is fairly ridiculously loud. So, it's nice and basic. I have added a couple of extra things. I've changed the casters out, which you may just about see on the bottom here, for a couple of for some casters on ball bearings. They're a lot more secure as well than the ones I was using. The ones I was using had a single thread that was supposed to go into the wood, and then I was going to put a wing nut on the end of that to secure them in place. That would have worked, but the thread going through the wood wasn't long enough, so I couldn't secure the casters, which caused a bit of a problem. These ones, they've got a plate of metal that sits flush with the wood, and then it's got 4 screws, so makes it nice and easy. So that's what I've done with that. I've also added some nifty handles to the top of it as well. Things to complete. First of all, we'll have a little listen to it. It's going to be a very, very, very quick snippet because we know what YouTube's like with copyright and everything else. So we'll get to a little bit more meat and bones of this. I'm not going to play anymore because obviously I'll end up with a copyright strike and I'll end up with a very narky other half who's trying to sleep. That probably woke her up anyway. So if the video's got a bit of a jump cut in it, you know as to why, because my kitchen door, yeah. Anyway, so that's what I've done with that. It still needs a good hoover and a good tidy up. As I said, this is not 100% finished. This is where the power cord comes through, which I'm not sure if that's actually going to come up too well on the video. Let's do a bit of reorientating there. In here was a plate where you had the 2 terminals for the subwoofer, so your amplifier would be elsewhere and then the speaker wires coming to it would just come into here. That's been removed. It's going to be tidied up. I'm going to modify the plate so this cable is fairly static coming out the side of it and doesn't move. Plenty of hot glue and whatnot on the other side. But the elephant in the room. Here's the elephant in the room. Ooh. So, what have we got? Well, we've got a problem. First of all, I'm not going to keep this power supply. I am going to replace that power supply with something newer. Because that is an old power supply anyway, but it's the only thing I had kicking around to be able to get this project going, so to speak. I'll also extend some cables and do a bit more tidying up because the cables are kind of just flapping around at the moment. They need dealing with. I don't think I can get any better light on that, but we'll try. I have ordered a very thin 12-inch sub to go on the back of this, which will also have a grill going over it to protect it. I've had to order one that's very thin because I have got a very large JBL sub over there. Unfortunately, it goes in too far and fouls on the back of the head unit. It causes a bit of a problem. So, I've ordered a really thin one. Seems to be good quality. It's on the cheaper side. It's supposed to be for, under a car seat, but it will work for this purpose. There won't be a massive amount of room between the end of its magnet and the head unit, but enough not to affect the head unit, which is also one of the reasons why I didn't go for one with a CD player. So that's going to get installed. I'm also ordering, it's about yay big, a small amplifier. It's having to come from China. I have no choice. Everything that's sold over here for, I suppose in a way, this kind of application is just way too big. I can't get it in there in the box as well with all of this other stuff. If I'd been a bit more smart with it and put the head unit either on the top of the box, which I think would have looked kind of stupid, or right at the very top on the other side, I may have been able to get away with it and use just a very small a very small amplifier that you can get off the shelf here, something about yay big or so. But I can't. So I've got a Chinese 500 watts amplifier coming. I can't imagine it's the best of qualities out there, to be quite honest, and I don't expect it to be the best of qualities, but here's the thing. I have a spare 12 volt rail on this power supply which will power that amplifier. The amplifier can also be powered over USB, but I won't be doing that because I'm fairly sure that's only going to be 5 volts. I can't see that being 12. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to power it through the 12 volt rail off this. Funnily enough, the amplifier actually has a plug that's very similar to a floppy drive connector, which this power supply has that connector, and the wires all are the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to the plug that comes with the amplifier just goes to bare wires at the end. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the floppy drive connector plug off this and wire the wires up as they're supposed to be wired up, which will power the amplifier. Then it will just be a case of getting a phono cable off the back of the head unit into the amplifier, and then a couple of speaker wires off the amplifier to the subwoofer, at which point this is then complete. But the reason I'm showing it you now is because two things. One, even though it's not the best of quality, I suppose, because the lighting's not overly great, you get to see what it looks like inside, which, trust me, when I've put it all together, I will not be opening this thing again at all if I really don't have to. And also, I couldn't contain my excitement, which is why I wanted to show you it now. There is another thing that I do need to add, or that I would like to add, I suppose, without dropping it. The radio doesn't work. Well, there's two things actually. The radio doesn't work because I don't have an aerial. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a aftermarket car aerial and attach it to the box, something that you can pull out and it retracts for obviously space saving reasons and whatnot. I may even get a side mounted one so I can put it on the back of the box, and then when the radio's not being used is fold the aerial down and then flip it behind the box. I'll see what's the cheapest alternative out there, to be quite honest. I don't want to throw lots of money at this. One other thing. The stereo is not retaining any settings. The memory is not working. Now the reason for that, when they're fitted to a car, they've got a permanent source of power, battery in the car. They don't have any onboard battery or anything like that to retain their settings. So when this is unplugged, it loses its settings. Now, while it is how it is, it's perfectly fine. But when I've tweaked the subwoofer and whatnot, I'm going to want to retain them settings. So what I'm going to try and do is figure out a way in which to hook up the memory on this through one of the permanent 12 volt wires to a battery. That I may do at a later date but I need to figure out something along them lines. I have got quite a bit of space in there, and I am thinking about adding a charging circuit to it, along with a couple of very reasonable sized lithium ion batteries, so that this can work away from the mains and you get a few hours worth of music out of it. At which point there should be enough charge in the batteries to then leave it permanently connected to the batteries and it retain its settings. I'll work that out at a later date, and when I've done it I'll post up another video about it. But that's what I'm thinking about doing. So, bits to add: amplifier, internal wiring for amplifier setup, 12-inch sub, 12-inch sub grill, and an aerial, and also tidy up that cable. After I've done that, yeah, it's pretty cool. Why did I build it? Purely because I was bored and I can, really. The other thing is, as well, is my eldest child has asked me to do a couple of bits and pieces technology wise with him, and this was one of the things that we did together. So there's also that reason as well. Getting a bit mushy and everything on you all, but that's one of the other reasons as well. I may build Box Mark II at some point, in which case, if I do, then I'll give him this one for his bedroom, which will be kind of cool because, you know, he's 10 years old, he's very into cars and everything else, and, you know, if his friends, he says to them, well, I've got a car stereo in my house and everything else, I'm sure he'll get quite the kick out of that. So, you know, I'm smiling ear to ear and whatnot, but, you know, it is what it is. So, thank you very much for watching. Comment, subscribe, etc. If you've got any more awesome ideas for this, do let me know, and I will catch you all in the next video.